What's up everyone, Sean Count Blackguard here today with an album review, this time of the 2013 Peaceville Records release of The Underground Resistance by the almighty Darkthrone. And I am so excited because this is one of my favorite bands of all time. I'm a collector, I love everything they've done, and that includes, yes, Circle the Wagons, which is probably one of my favorite Darkthrone albums next to Panzerfaust. Just an amazing album, and if you guys haven't heard this yet, which I'm sure most of you have, but if you haven't, check this out. It's a really good heavy metal. Now, where the Underground Resistance picks up is where Darkthrone left off on Circle the Wagons. Just some more straight up classic 80s style heavy metal, but this time around there's a bit more Celtic Frost, there's a bit more speed, and just a little bit more thrash to make things a rather interesting album. Excuse me. Now, with this album, it offers 6 tracks, and it's a pretty quick album, I must say. It goes by relatively fast. Just some great songs, and I must say, this album is a riff machine. It's just pumping out awesome riff after awesome riff of just some amazing classic metal styled riffs. And for the first time, I can honestly say that Darkthrone has really came up with some not only like unique melodies, but actually very good harmonies as well, especially in the second song, Valkyrie. That's probably one of my favorite tracks off this album. I love the opening to the album. It just has this very triumphant yet beautiful sounding riff, which is something I never thought I'd say about Darkthrone, since they pride themselves on being such an ugly, dirty band, yet they put out something like Valkyrie, which in my opinion is awesome. Now, for the overall feel of this album, it's just sounds like it's straight out of 1984. You got the classic Celtic Frost influence, especially on the track Come Warfare, the Entire Doom. That is probably my favorite song off this album because it has such a doomy and Celtic Frost sort of vibe. And the vocals done by Nocturnal Culto sound just like Tom G. Warrior in that time. And in some cases, it actually reminds me quite a bit of the Satanic Rites demo from Hellhammer. Excuse me. Yeah, it just reminds me of the Satanic Rites demo from Hellhammer in certain aspects, and that's one of my favorite demos of all time. So to hear that on a Darkthrone album and hearing how they interpret it is amazing. It's extremely varied though, because you get these sort of thrashy like songs like Dead Early, and then you also have these sort of like almost Viking metal songs such as Valkyrie, or even these kind of doomy sort of songs like Come Warfare, the Entire Doom. Those tracks are completely different from each other, yet they keep one cohesive sound, which is this really classic throwback, and I love it. There's a lot of speed metal influence on here, especially in the track Leave No Cross Unturned, which does have a tiny bit of Celtic Frost influence, especially the final riff of the song really just kind of hammers that feeling home. And to say the least, Celtic Frost is one of my all-time favorite bands, and to hear that is just amazing. I mean, this whole thing is a great listen, and it's a really strong contender for Album of the Year. The mix is a little bit odd when you first hear it, because it's so thin. And Darkthrone have never had the best production, and I could never really care about that. I've always dug the sound of every album, and I think Circle the Wagons had the best sound. But upon the very first listen to this, it took a little bit for my ears to adjust to the mix, but once when you do, you can hear everything crystal clear, and to me it sounds very good. And I must say, the drum sound that Fenriz has on this album is just spectacular. The toms sound very thick, full, and robust. The kick has a lot of punch behind it. The snare is kind of thin, but it really works with the overall kind of tinny sound that this record has. So the drum sound I love. The guitar sound is a little bit too thin, but at the same time it works for what they're doing. And surprisingly, the lead work sounds really good. It's a lot louder in the mix than I think it should be, but that kind of adds to that little bit of a dirty charm that Darkthrone have always had, and that just kind of leaves its own mark upon the album and lets the listener know we're Darkthrone and we don't care. And that mix for the solos just really shows that they really don't care, because it is really loud. But that's a great thing. I mean, because what they're doing is good, and I love everything about it. I just kind of do get a little bit annoyed with how loud the solos are, but that's alright. But the vocals, it's extremely varied. As everyone knows, when it comes to, if you know me at least, Circle the Wagons featured some of my favorite Darkthrone vocals, period, which is what Fenris has done in bands such as Storm and Isengard, and on this album, which is that kind of cheesy Viking style vocal, and I was really hoping to hear a lot more of that. But it's only done in a couple parts, which kind of let me down a little bit, if I'm to be honest, just because I love that vocal so much. It's just so cheesy and epic, and I love that. But they bring forth a new layer of cheese, and this this actually made me laugh. It is the song The Ones You Leave Behind. I believe. Yeah, The Ones You Left Behind, excuse me. There is a falsetto that is ripped right in the middle of that track, and it is so cheesy it needs to include a bag of chips. It's that cheesy, but it's so awesome. It's just, I love cheesy metal, and this has it. I love that part about it. But the vocals, though, they do keep that kind of factor, but a lot of the stuff that Nocturnal Culto is doing is this very gruff, kind of raspy vocal that he did a lot of on Circle the Wagons and Darkthrones and Black Flags and FOAD. Just that really kind of gruff, almost Tom G. Warrior sound. And you'll even hear a few oohs on there, which is awesome. I love that. But overall, the vocals are really varied, because they go from that to these rather high-pitched vocals that Fenris is doing, and he's really singing high up in the register, and I like that a lot. It really works for the context of what they're doing within the music, and to me, I think that just adds to that 80s vibe, and I love it. Then you get some of those more Viking vocals here and there, and of course you get those ripping falsettos, which are hilariously awesome. Just a great vocal mix overall. And the one thing that kind of bothered me a little bit at first is the amount of echo on the voice. The vocals are just extremely echoed, and it kind of bothered me at first, but the more you listen to it, the more it fits, and it makes sense. It's just something that, once again, you have to sit down, listen to it, and let your ears adjust. Once when they do, it's a great thing. Despite a few gripes I have here and there with the mix and the solos, this is a phenomenal album, and is sure to be one of my favorite Darkthrones if I give it enough time. For a score as of right now, to me, I am feeling a very strong 9 on this. They have returned, they have conquered, and Darkthrone have proven once again that they are a relevant band and are a complete and utter force to be reckoned with in this scene of metal and in the giant scheme of music. Just some more dirty, old school classic metal that's meant for metalheads and no one else, and if you don't like it, they don't care, and I love that. So I'm feeling a strong 9 on this. Definitely check this out, buy it. I'm getting the vinyl version to help finish up my collection. Just some great stuff. You all need to hear this. So I'm giving this a strong 9 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And as always, keep it metal.